Steve.
We welcome to the program now, glad he could be with us in person, Representative Kevin Horan. He represents District 34, which includes Carroll, Grenada, Holmes, LaFleur, and Tallahatchie counties, serves as the chairman of House Judd B committees. All that right?
That's right. Okay. Some of that's right, some of it's wrong.
Okay, well, update
My
us.
new district is Grenada, Yellow Bush, and parts of Lafayette.
Okay, and parts of Lafayette
That's
now.
right.
So
Still
that,
number 34, but have different areas.
well, you don't have quite as many counties in your district.
Correct.
Right, that's pretty chopped up. But
large area, but not as many counties.
so we got to update just because we did redistricting. That's the
correct.
reason that all
That's
this has
correct.
changed. And between then and now, and the terms actually
That is
in the
correct.
session. So
That's
all right,
created
well,
that new district.
yeah, all right. So appreciate you coming in, you guys.
Appreciate you having me.
Yeah. So special session this morning, right?
It is. We're in the throes of a special session as we speak, and
Okay.
hopefully I'll get back in time to cast a vote. But if not, I'll get the vote in for the end of the day.
Okay, good. So it's a big deal. A $10 billion
deal.
project,
Huge deal.
largest in the state's history.
Very much so.
Well, I've been giddy about it and busting at the seams, and I know the governor has too, as he's been intimately involved for some time. And
He has. He came to the Capitol this morning and spoke, and he's rightfully proud of this project, and he ought to be. MDA also did great work on this project.
no doubt about it. And please don't forget about our local folks at the Madison County Economic Development
No
Authority.
doubt.
What a
No
great
doubt.
team we have there. And it's just been such an honor.
I think they said 4 years in the making that this
It has
is going,
been.
and it's been a cooperative agreement by a number of stakeholders, and they did a great job.
No doubt
about it.
And I have also applauded Entergy, who played a key role here. And you know, I remember Governor Haley Barbour saying something about this several years ago and he was spot on. It's amazing how prescient he was that we're going to get to the point where to win economic development projects in the future, the ability to supply power is going to be critical. And that's where we are.
100%.
It's unbelievable.
100%. That's a critical part of it. And I was talking to some members in North Mississippi about some of the challenges we have in some of the rural areas on power, and some of the economic development can come to those areas if we can get that power there for some of the smaller projects that we need to look at and try to get some of this stuff accomplished.
Okay. So are we going to have a general session today as well, or just special?
I think we're just going to – we'll go back into general session afterwards, but I don't think we're going to be moving anything off the floor today. It's my understanding.
If that has to be postponed a day or two to get this done, I think it's worth it.
It's well worth the effort, I promise you that, Gerard.
All right, so we were just talking, you probably heard us, out in the green room before you came on here about this House Concurrent Resolution 11 that was shepherded by Representative Price Wallace.
Right.
That
lively debate engaged.
That's what I heard and read some of the commentary. I actually tried to get up in the gallery yesterday, but man, it was packed. Did we have like the whole state of Mississippi in the gallery in the house over there yesterday afternoon?
Appeared to be. But,
good reason though. Good
that's
folks.
Correct. Good people. Good people.
So we got this thing passed and headed down the hall there to the Senate.
We'll see what happens on the other end of the hall.
Yeah.
And I don't know what their plan is, if they're going to slide it through as is or not. I haven't heard. I hadn't talked to any members of the Senate. Normally I would engage in conversation with Chairman Sparks and some of the other ones that I deal with regularly on legislation, but I've not had an opportunity to speak with them, see what their thoughts are.
Okay. All right. Well, so just to kind of recap, we were sharing with our audience here, we preserved some of the provisions of what presently exists in the Constitution, such as no measure can address PERS or change that up, amend that up, and our right-to-work laws stay in place, can't mess with that. That's in place as well. So that got carried forward, but a couple of things were added, best I can tell. Nothing related to abortion.
That's correct.
Could go to the ballot. And then, let's see, I talked about right to work. I didn't really understand totally the local provision, the provision that prevents anything that would. I'm reading from the actual resolution to propose any new local or special law or amend or repeal any existing local or special law. Does it just mean you can't go to the state to change something at the local level?
Correct. I think some of that stuff that's passed local and privately that would affect those things, and some of the local stuff is kind of I think that's the genesis of that, is to avoid anything that would do something, pigeonholing something that would affect a region of the state. And I would also think probably that some of the stuff that we're passing for economic development, you could not get into those local issues and affect those as well as local and privates. What that language would include that as well.
And, of course, a big change in particular is that this would allow citizens to make statutory changes or establish new
general law.
Yeah, just general law
right.
that could later, of course, there's some restrictions on that in terms of time frame, be amended if necessary. And I think there's something that basically states if something poses an emergency situation, the legislature could step in and
step
act.
in. If something that passed, if you look at a lot of times in California, they'll have a resolution that passes, and 3 years later the legislature's going in and trying to fix it.
Undoing it.
Yeah, the proposition situation they have out there. We're trying to avoid that, I believe, to avoid having a situation where we're constantly going back in and trying to get back on the ballot and try to fix something that the legislature could fix.
Makes sense.
Technical changes and things of that nature.
Something, I guess, that is new relative to what exists in the Constitution is that, and I'll read from the resolution that just passed yesterday, cannot propose any new law or amend or repeal any existing law that appropriates funds from the state treasury.
That's correct.
So that would indicate that Medicaid expansion, for example, which is something that has been poised to go to the ballot by those who want to expand Medicaid in our state, a pretty extensive effort to do so that was ready to go until the Supreme Court says you don't have a ballot measure process anymore.
Right. That's right.
Otherwise, I think that would have been on the ballot.
I think you're correct. It would have been on the ballot.
As long as the state has to come out of pocket here to fund its portion of expansion, that wouldn't be valid.
That is correct. As long as you're touching on things that would require appropriation by the legislature, by the state, then those measures cannot. Just basically general law that doesn't have anything to do with money, is my understanding, with the exceptions of those that are specifically listed.
Well, I guess what I didn't see and I was a little confused about is there's nothing in here that I could tell that would prevent a measure that would change the revenue side of the budget.
That is correct.
But we had that in the one 2 years ago. Remember, the language is a little different. It basically, and I'm just paraphrasing here, summarizing, but it's something to the effect that nothing could be done that would essentially endanger the financial condition of the state.
General financial condition.
Yeah, but this specifically focuses on spending, money going out.
Spending aspect, not revenue. Not raising
no
money.
Revenue.
Not yet, anyway.
Yeah.
May change on the Senate side, but right now it's not in it.
So I guess you could, just thinking out loud, you could have something that changes our tax law and our tax structure. But if it gets to the point where you got to appropriate more money to cover it, then
it may meet itself coming and going. Gerard,
this will be fun.
We'll see. The spending aspect of it makes a lot of sense. The taxing aspect of it, I could see where it could create a problem for us if we cutting our money out that we need for programs, things of that nature. General spending, we could eliminate the income tax, things of that nature.
Right.
And see where that would head.
All right, anyway. Well, as you know, the House Minority Leader, Representative Robert Johnson, just on the program, I think, last week, he was none too happy and saw some of his comments. I don't know if you were present when did he take to the well and make these proclamations, or what happened here?
He did. He made comment. I mean, Chairman Johnson, I call him chairman because he was chairman at one time.
Sure.
And he has a position, and he spoke eloquently about his position involved thing. But yes, he's got some concerns, and he also had concerns about the Marshall County matters.
I know he did,
and so he's been quite vocal this session for sure.
He has, of course, representing his caucus, the Democrat caucus. That's there. Correct. But he had some serious concerns about the process. He says, I think I got it right, but now we have a bill here today that allegedly restores the right of the initiative process to the people, and in that bill it does everything but restore that right. It prohibits what you can talk about. It increases the signatures, and it says if the legislature doesn't like what you voted for, they can overturn it.
It doesn't necessarily say that they could overturn it. It just limits what can be placed on the ballot. It doesn't necessarily say you can overturn it. You can tweak it to a certain extent, but overturn it, I don't think it quite says that.
Well, let's dig into some of the other issues if you can hang around with us for a minute. We got Representative Kevin Horan in the Element Well studio. All right, so we were just going through this ballot initiative process. You have any feel for what might happen down at the Senate there?
I really don't. I can't anticipate that there would be any major changes to the bill. I don't believe that they would, the topic we talked about earlier about affecting the Ways and Means aspect of it, I don't believe that they would change it to that extent, make any changes along those lines.
Well, and we've got different leadership in committees. As you recall, last year we had Senator John Polk who made it very clear he opposed any restoration.
That's correct.
Of the process, and so it really never got any traction there in the Senate. We got different folks in charge
That's
now.
Right. Different places.
Yeah.
And,
so we'll see where that goes.
We'll see what happens, but I don't anticipate they would make any substantial changes.
Okay. Well, let's talk about your committee, Judd B. What you got in store for us there?
Oh, Lord.
A lot, right?
Well, it usually is a good bit out of Judd B. I anticipate we'll have a large number of bills assigned. I met with Commissioner Sean Tyndall at Public Safety last week. He has an agenda that he has some things that he wants to get done. One of the topics we talked about is the mental health issue. The law enforcement community over the last 2 or 3 years have come to the legislators and asked us to try to do something along the lines of providing for some type of mental health in the criminal justice system to identify these individuals that have mental health issues that happen to be in the criminal justice system early on, as opposed to waiting until they get in jail or in a situation where they can't get out of jail on bond or something that's costing these counties and municipalities a lot of money. And Commissioner Tyndall and I talked about that, as well as his goal is to provide some type additional long-term law enforcement training for some of these smaller communities, municipalities, and counties, continuing law enforcement training so we don't run into some of the problems that we all have seen in Rankin County, some things involving some not necessarily good things that come out of some of the and a lot of that would be a situation where you could provide better training for some of the officers, and also a conversation we had about developing some type of internal affairs type of agency within Department of Public Safety that could reach out, or a agency head in one of the counties could say, look, we're having a problem within our sheriff's department or police department. They could come up there and do some investigation, determine whether or not there's something that need to be looked into, so we don't have a recurring event that happened out in Rankin County for some of the things. It's a terrible situation that's occurred out there, and hopefully, and that was something that he talked to me about, and of course that would take at least 2 or 3 sessions to get that going. But he's adamant that we need to at least have somewhere so some of the agencies can reach out to somebody and say, hey, look, come up here and look and see if we've got a problem.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I think the citizens would be better served, and also the law enforcement community would be better served if we had some type of agency or sub-agency under public safety that we could make that available to those folks.
Is there anything else that Commissioner Tyndall or any other law enforcement authorities are asking for from your committee?
One of the things we talked about, and something that I believe that we've got to address, and you know, our friends at the NRA, you got to be real careful when you talk about gun rights, but we've got to do something about the high capacity, large capacity guns that are being used in commission of offenses within our state. Other states are trying to address it as well, and Commissioner Tyndall and I talked about it, and he said agencies have reached out to him that we need to do something about, on the criminal side, not necessarily interfering with someone's right to own them, but when they're used in a crime, to maybe have some enhanced penalties for use of those high capacity crimes, because you can do a lot of damage with a 30-round clip in a gun in a community, and that needs to be addressed. Is something we're going to have to look at, and I think he and I are on the same page with that.
Well, it seems like there'd be an appetite for that. That's not
I think
restricting
so.
use
It's
and
not.
ownership.
You just got to be careful, when
Yeah.
you talk about doing certain things. There's some states that want to place barcodes on every piece of clips, guns, and some members, and I'm a gun owner, gun user myself. I hunt and fish like 95% of Mississippians, and I don't really want the government in my backyard either. But on the other hand, we need to be able to identify some of these weapons and clips and switches, things of that nature that are creating some problems, especially when they get in the hands of younger population and are used in terrible fashion.
Yeah. What about, Representative Horan, our prison systems, our parole system, our parole board? Do you think there's any need for some structural changes there?
Well, that's something we could talk about for 3 hours or 4 hours about some of the changes that we need to do. And I think the last time I was on, I was chair of corrections, and I'm no longer,
that.
But
yeah.
I will still be handling some of that legislation with Chairman Curry. But I do believe that we're going to have to look at putting some money into what we call reentry, as far as keeping people from constantly coming back into the system. And some of that reentry money is going to have to be what I call outside the gate, and has to be in a situation where it's going to be in the court system as opposed in the parole system. And I do believe that we're going to have to look at some of the administrative provisions in the parole board to see if we can move some things along and try to get better information about some of the individuals that may be coming up for parole, deserving. Those that are deserving of parole need to be released. Those who are not deserving of parole or are considered not necessarily released. Those are not deserving of release. They need to be kept, even though they may be eligible for parole. The information needs to be provided to the parole board. There is a disconnect, it seems to be, between MDOC sometimes and the parole board about what information is getting to the parole board.
I see.
And it's just it's a very big, it's a big, I call it the biggest corporation in the state of Mississippi when you talk about all the moving parts that we have.
It seems like it's maybe more subjective than I think the average person kind of understands.
Right. The parole laws, people don't really understand. When I was in the DA's office, started in 1988 and left the DA's office in 2002. The parole law changed in 1994 through 1996. Prior to that time, just about everybody had eligibility.
Yeah.
Sex offenders, everybody had eligibility. We cut that back. Violent offenders, everybody had some type of eligibility. We changed that in 1995 and again in 2006. And as you well know, we have peeled back some of that in 2014. But what people don't understand is that you've got a situation where just about everybody, a large population of the inmates are eligible for parole. So you need to be able to identify those individuals that are they're coming out at some point in time. You need to have them suited for coming out into society if at all possible. And that's where reentry comes into play.
I know it won't necessarily cross your committee, but a couple of high-profile issues I think that will be taken up. It's School Choice Week. School choice, I think, is going to get some attention. You have any thoughts on that?
Well, I have 4 in school. I want them to go year-round, all day, every day.
Okay. Brutal.
No, I think we're at a point in time we're going to have to look at the school choice issues and be realistic about some of the educational opportunities that some of our population are not getting. I mean, that won't get education. Parents want to put their kids in a good situation. I think we're going to have to look at school choice. When I first got in the legislature, I was 100% against it. I'm not so much 100% against.
Okay.
Some hybrid school choice, maybe a pilot program to see how it works and kind of see where we are on it.
Okay.
But I think it's going to be an issue that Speaker White, I think he's spoken before that he wants it addressed, and I think he wants it put on the table to see what ideas can come out that everybody can hopefully live with.
That's my impression as well.
Right.
I think he wants to get all the issues on the table and
Right.
just have a meaningful debate about it.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
I think that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Totally agree. Well, Appreciate you coming in, as
I
always.
appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you, the work that you do and being information provider to the community, and you do a great job.
Well,
I appreciate you
that.
having me.
Thank you. Representative Kevin Horan has been our guest here on Middays. We're stepping aside for a break. Coming right back.